In this episode of the Business of E-commerce, I talk with Darin Hager. This is Business of E-commerce, episode 32. Welcome to the Business of E-commerce, the show that helps e-commerce retailers start, launch, and grow their e-commerce business. I'm your host, Charles Pulaski. I'm here today with Darin Hager. Darin is the CEO, the Chief Everything Officer of Heyday Footwear. I asked him on the show today to talk about his journey from designer to brand owner to e-commerce star. So, hey Darin, how you doing today?
I'm doing great, Charles. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's great to have you on the show. It turns out we graduated from the same college, a small little college, and it's surprising to find someone else. So definitely interesting when I saw that. So great to have you on the show.
Awesome.
So Heyday Footwear. Kind of wanted to first find out what exactly is it, and then we can kind of talk about how you got started in it and where your kind of journey began.
Okay, well, Heyday is design-driven performance high-top sneakers for bodybuilders, powerlifters, and fitness athletes who are also trendsetters. If you want to stand out in and out of the gym, Heyday makes the sneakers for you.
Okay, so you're like when you're lifting, powerlifting, those they're very flat shoes usually, the flat bottom, kind of high top.
Correct.
Okay, cool. So then, how did you get started with this? Is it were you lifting before this and kind of got into it, or where did this all kind of begin?
Well, it always worked out, but Heyday came about 11 years ago. I had been a corporate designer for 3 or 4 major brands after graduating from design school in Boston. And in 2006, I left my last corporate job as senior designer at Sperry Topsider. I just wanted to go out and do my own thing. I think I was born to be an entrepreneur and didn't even know it, at least at that time. But I didn't want to work for someone. I had ideas about how I wanted to do things. I'd been in the business a long time. I had a lot of contacts, and I thought I could just do it. I could do it myself. And I eventually got there. I started developing the brand in 2007, came to market in 2008. This was when the whole sneakerhead trend was sort of in full swing in the mid to late 2000s. And I started the brand obviously on my own. I had factory contacts in China, so I've been to China many times. As of today, I've been to China 55 times in my career. But it was really the first time I had to start going literally by myself and doing all the things that my previous large corporate job, they had all these people in place to do all these different tasks, from other designers to graphic designers to developers to people working at the factories to people doing commercializing the product, retailing it, merchandising it, importing it. Well, all of a sudden I had to do all of those things because there was no one else. I was bootstrapping it. I bootstrapped it for 10 years. And the brand started out in a couple of small boutiques. I had the tannery in Cambridge. I had a couple of stores in LA. I had a couple in Japan. I started going to all the footwear wholesale trade shows in Las Vegas and New York. And after a year or two, I guess about 2 years, I was in Finish Line, Bloomingdale's, Revolve Clothing, ASOS, Oak in New York, you name it, from crappy little urban hip hop stores in the Southeast to the biggest stores in the mall and the most stylish contemporary stores as well. We were kind of all over, but we were also in the middle of the economic downturn, and I didn't have any financing. It was just literally just me. At that point, I had a sales agency working for me and a sales manager, but between the downturn leading to the independent stores really not having any credit anymore, so that I basically didn't want to give them product on credit terms because I was doing credit checks and nobody had any money, to the big guys who either, like Bloomingdale's, would pay 120 days late, or to um, other other stores like Finn did a 10-door test there. Sell through was okay, but not where it was, not where they needed it to be to continue selling it there. Of course, I blame the buyer at the time because the shoes that he picked custom to go into the finish line were the worst choices ever, but that's what they wanted, so that's what we made them. So after kind of riding this wave up and down in the wholesale market, I decided, after reading a book that I came across called The New Rules of Retail by Robin Lewis, who's a sort of a retail master out of New York, where basically the book talked about how retail started out with catalogs at Sears and Roebuck, which was a big change from the general stores where you could only go to a store and buy what they had there, to Sears Roebuck, where all of a sudden now you got a catalog delivered to your house and they'd ship stuff to you. And then how that changed into the department store, and then the department store changed into the specialty store, and then by the mid 2000s, the need for actual wholesale and retailers was going away because brands could start to go direct to the consumer through their own e-commerce. And I was like, wait a minute, that might just work. My customers are crazy for the shoes, but I'm letting the 10 different people control my business because they were the 10 biggest buyers. So naturally, if the buyer says, hey, I want you to do brown with pink, unless you want to not get that money, you're going to do what they say. But then that leaves those 10 buyers or whatever it is basically controlling your company. And I didn't want to do that. I wanted to be the control of the company and setting the trends. So I realized that going direct to consumer was, it's a genius thing. So I initially started out with just an informational website, and I was on a platform that wasn't conducive to e-commerce. It was like an enterprise SaaS thing that I was the very
What year was this? What year is this we're talking about now?
2012 or 2011. So I was on a platform that I was their very first shopping cart. I was the very first store. And it worked for a while, but then they wound up taking their platform in a different direction away from e-commerce. And the brand kind of went up and down. I discovered bodybuilders on Instagram wearing my shoes. We were like a streetwear brand. We did a lot with all the hip hop dance shows on TV, like So You Think You Can Dance and America's Best Dance Crew. So we were kind of in that market. And then I see bodybuilders wearing the shoes on Instagram, and more wearing them. And I'm like, wow, this could be a really, really big market, because athleisure was getting big. Everyone was starting to shop at Whole Foods and go organic, and wearables and Fitbit. Like, it was just this perfect storm of fitness related markets sort of hitting at the same time. And, the shoes, I didn't design them initially specifically for bodybuilding. It just so happened that the shoes were perfect for bodybuilding as they were. So I decided I was really going to go into that market. And by 2016, I realized I really needed to get on a better shopping cart platform. And I heard an interview on another podcast with the CEO from Greats.com, which is a casual sneaker brand in Brooklyn. And they were talking about how they were on Shopify Plus. And my old platform, I used to have to call the developer to get them to do anything. All I could do was upload photos. If any little change, there was no integrations with any apps. There was no apps. There was nothing. So any little thing I needed them to do. And basically, eventually, they got tired of taking requests from me constantly. So when I found out about Shopify, I had my store rebuilt in 2 hours. And I was like, holy shit, this is amazing. All the stuff that you can do, I can do myself. And all the app store, it was such an amazing feeling to sort of like be free, like in the Matrix, like anything was possible. And I've been really happy with Shopify. I've been there now almost 2 years, and business is growing. We're getting into new markets. We had been just really in bodybuilding. Now we're starting to find a lot of customers in powerlifting and strongman competitions that also want performance sneakers that make them stand out, that are really comfortable and don't look like anything else, and that they can wear out of the gym and not look like they're wearing gym shoes. The shoes are really versatile. Uh, and so that's something that people are really into, because there's like Olympic lifting shoes that are have a completely solid sole. Um, you can't even walk across the gym in them because they don't flex. It's purely to do squats and deadlifts, and that's all you can do in it. And you got to actually change your shoes to do anything else.
I actually have a pair. I actually have a pair of those, and I bring two pairs of shoes to the gym, and I use specific for, and the higher heel. That's all they do, and then you have to take you literally can't walk with them. Yep, I have a
That's
pair.
where we come in. You can go from leg day to cardio to date night, same shoes.
Very cool. All right, so you just took us through about 12 years there pretty quickly. So definitely want to dig into a few of those years. So when you first, 2006, you quit your job, you were working Sperry, so corporate job. Was it, did you have something going, or was this just kind of a plan, or you had some savings you just kind of ran off of? Because was the plan just to bootstrap this, or how did you actually decide to do this day one?
Well, I actually decided I was going to leave Sperry. I was just not enjoying myself there. And I started freelancing. I was freelancing for Sebago, which is Sperry's #1 competitor. I freelanced for other brands that were within the same conglomerate as Sperry, like Saucony. I did work for Reebok. I mean, I did work all over. And then I started working with a guy that I used to work with at Sperry, who left and started his own brand, and he got into tactical boots. And I started working with him, and we designed quite a number of styles for his brand, which he then sold to New Balance. But I had a sort of large background in tactical and law enforcement boots, and that experience doing those boots literally for the military cropped up again at Heyday 2 years ago when I was looking to design a new style, and I was thinking a tactical boot that you could wear to the gym. And so I kind of just looked back into what I'd been doing a few years earlier and came up with a really amazing design that I have a number of police officers that actually wear them for their duty service shoes, and then they wear them to the gym, or they just look like kick-ass combat boots, but they're as comfortable as a sneaker because they are a sneaker. So I do look sort of to the past throughout my career, because I've had a long career, and I'm able to pull stuff out and apply it in new places where it's something new to a new customer base.
Yeah, I'm still curious though. When you quit, it sounds like, I mean, because I know footwear, it's definitely not something cheap to get into, and flying back and forth to China and that first run, or like, how was that first experience of actually saying, okay, we're going from working a corporate job to all of a sudden we have to, you have to fund basically your first purchase order. And
it was scary.
Yeah, right.
It was absolutely scary, but it was also really exciting. I've always been good at networking and sort of getting press, and that's just sort of helped me along with meeting people and utilizing my network, and started getting a lot of publications and websites and magazines interested in the shoes. Wound up doing quite a bit of work with stylists for the movies and TV, and recording artists. I mean, we had Trey Songz in the shoes, Jay Sean, Flo Rida, Honor Rebel. I had a couple of members of Prince's band. We worked with So You Think You Can Dance for 5 seasons, America's Got Talent. Nelson Ellis, who played Lafayette on True Blood on HBO, his character wore Heydays throughout seasons 4 and 5. Heydays were in Ant-Man. I mean, I've had a lot of really good media placement. which interesting to note is none of which I've ever actually paid for.
I was gonna say, yeah, what do you attribute that to? Because I mean, I know the big thing now is like influencers, Instagram, that whole thing. Like, how do you actually get a shoe an Ant-Man? Like how does that even happen?
Ant-Man was actually completely random. It was their stylist must have picked the shoes for someone in one of the scenes because they didn't even come to me, but they had three separate shots of Heydays in the dance floor scene.
Did they tell you, or just were you just
No, they didn't
watching?
tell me.
You're in the movie there to watch an
My
Ant-Man.
wife, and she's like, "Aren't those Heydays?" I'm like, "Yeah."
Wow, could not pay for that product placement. That is
No,
that is
but
very cool.
a lot of the stylists all know each other.
And they probably
Many
follow all
of
the same industry
assistants
blogs
to
and
other stylists, and then they go off on their own.
yep.
And it literally just spread. I think there were a lot of stylists that all worked on different Fox properties or on the Fox lot, and they just kind of shared me, like I don't know. I was going to think of something dirty, but I guess they just passed me around.
We have to put the explicit little tag on the show. So
we had shoes on Katy Perry and her dancers. I met with Justin Bieber's stylist. I mean, they all knew each other, and they saw product that was really unique, that was relevant, and that you couldn't get anywhere else, yet wasn't $1,000 a pair.
Did some of them reach out to you directly and say, "Hey, we're thinking of placing this on a show," and did they ask for? Okay.
All the time. I just had a stylist that I've worked with for a few years just email me this morning. Now the interesting thing is he's styling someone, a YouTuber who has 90 million views. So it's like YouTubers now are like the recording artists from 6-7 years ago.
Yeah, those numbers, you start look at the top even 100 YouTubers and kind of they have estimates on how much they make, and the numbers are amazing. Yeah, some of those operations. So they have. I didn't even realize they have their own stylist. It's at that level. So then people are just kind of finding you through industry blogs, magazines, that sort of thing.
On the industry side, yes. I mean, I've been lucky to do a number of podcasts like yours, and really they all kind of build upon each other. Someone's going to hear this one in a couple months and say, "Hey, I heard you on that podcast. Do you want to do something?" And again, it's networking. One thing leads to another, leads to another, leads to another, and you just need to be able to take advantage of those situations and sort of milk it, for everything that you can. For my customers, a lot of it is definitely organic, but we're pretty heavily involved in Facebook and Google PLAs and Amazon. I mean, we're doing a lot of different marketing channels.
Once you start showing up kind of in many different places, one thing I've kind of found is then folks start to think, like, even if they haven't purchased from you before, they've seen you on Instagram, they saw you in Ant-Man, and they saw you, randomly somewhere else. Then they start to think, I have like more of a relationship with this company than you actually do. They're not even a customer. They've just seen you around. So all of a sudden, then when they're ready to buy, they remember, oh yeah, those shoes. Okay, I'll take a look at them instead. Versus just, hitting them once with an ad. They say, oh, great, and they walk away. But when they start seeing you again and again, it builds this relationship that even though they're not a customer yet, they still are a follower of yours, let's say.
Yeah. Now I take that relationship to the next level, really, once they become customers. We're a small brand. There's basically three and a half of us. And we all work remotely. I'm the only one here in the US. My development director, my partner, is in China, and my marketing consultant's in Madrid, and my blog writer is in Toronto. So it's really just me. I have always been and am sort of the face of the brand, but I make the relationship with the customer really important. It's the relationship I have with the customer, and the fact that you have access to me is just as important as the design of the shoes. And
are you still doing most of the design yourself, all of the design yourself, or?
Yeah. I do all the design. I do all the majority of the marketing. I do all the warehousing, the picking, packing, importing, logistics, customer service, social, video, content creator. I do everything.
And now, any retail relationship still, or is that all?
I have there's a couple of retailers that I have some product in, but it's really more based on just a relationship. The brand I really feel should be direct to consumer. Um, while yes, it is nice to be able to touch and feel and try on in person, I think people really today really are used to online shopping. We do free exchanges, free return shipping. Um, I ship stuff out. Sometimes I have an order and it's literally outside in 5 minutes, because I'm doing it myself. There is no, you know, 3PL warehouse that I have to email the orders to at the end of the day, and then hopefully they get to it the next day. And by the way, they're going to charge $12 a box to pick and pack and ship. I'm doing it. I'm
So
doing it all right here.
it's all coming out of here in Boston then.
Um, yeah.
So,
So
so when the
I'm
product
able to
gets,
have this really unique, close relationship with my customers. Right? I mean, I'm friends with many of my customers, and I have 20,000 customers, but they all sort of feel like they know me. And once the brand we're going to continue to grow, add more people. That whole level of personal connection can absolutely scale. Look at how Zappos treats their customers. They will do anything for a customer. And that I believe really in the same thing. Just take care of the customer in whatever way you can. I make it like I'm just talking to a friend, not like I'm reading a script or that I'm being overly polite and just, you're talking to a real person. You're not just talking to a customer service rep when you're talking to me. And people dig that.
do you feel that kind of close feedback loop also? Does it help kind of even with like the design side and actually coming up with new ideas and being able to like talk and hear what people like and what people don't like? Has that kind of influenced you as well, or is it you decide and you
It
know?
does, but I don't necessarily take everything that I hear, and make it happen. Um, I am sort of caught between being like Henry Ford and Steve Jobs on one hand, where Henry Ford said, you can have any color you like as long as it's black, and Steve Jobs was famous for saying, if you let the customer tell you what they'd like, they'd ask for faster horses. So I think I know what trends and what direction I want to take the brand, but it is important to hear what the customers say and then figure out how to temper that into something that's going to be commercially successful. Because sometimes they want stuff that is just like, oh my God, that's never going to sell.
It's one of those things you have to kind of hear a lot of it and start taking in different, use it more of a direction than actual individual data points, right? Where you're not looking at saying, oh, if someone wants, this, I don't know, bright green shoe or something that just, doesn't make any sense. But if you hear enough people all asking for something that sounds similar, it kind of guides you in a direction almost.
Yeah. You just have to give it some time to see if certain things accumulate over time to see if it's something that's lasting. We're as far as fast fashion goes, we're pretty quick on the lead time. I mean, we're at about 3 to 4 months. Nike and Sperry, whoever, it's usually 1 to 2 years lead time. So if someone, oh, you know what, everyone's asking for pink camo. I could have pink camo for September.
So when you say lead time, is that the time when you start hearing customers request it, or is that some, like the fashion industry kind of decided
It's about 4 months,
4 months?
which is really fast. 8 to 10 weeks of that is production, and about 4 to 5 weeks is shipping from China.
And then it gets shipped from China. Then is it trucked across the U.S. or how does it actually physically get here?
It goes by boat to LA, and then it is either airshipped or trucked from LA to here. So it's usually about 14 days to LA or Long Beach, and then 4 to 14 days from LA to here, depending on, are they able to get the containers off the ship in time? Has it been released by customs? Is there some issue with the trucking company? Did they take half the shipment and put it on another truck going to somewhere else? These are all things that have happened. My last shipment was flawless. Factory finished it on time. There were no shortages. It cleared customs the first day. It got off the ship the first day. It got from LA to here in 4 days. It's like never happened before. That everything happened flawlessly. I'm sure it's not going to happen again.
Yeah, I feel like if you've been in it long enough, everything you could think of has happened at some point. So I guess eventually one flawless shipment will come in, just
Yeah,
using those rules. But that could be your one. Every every combination of things will eventually happen if you've
it
been in it long
has.
enough. Yeah. How has it been bootstrapping, kind of developing a product like this? Because I know as you grow, it gets almost more capital intensive. The more you grow, the more orders you get in, and you're gonna have to reinvest the capital, but then you're gonna get more, and you need to reinvest, and it just, it's a very like cash hungry business. How have you kind of used that? What have you done to handle those ebbs and flows and to deal with that?
Well, for a long time, I was just bootstrapping it completely on my own from my savings, and then using profits from sales and reinvesting it. I never really taken much in the way of a salary ever. Um, I would borrow money from family. I had looked into different lenders. I remember years ago looking at the SBA and thinking, oh fuck this. They wanted like this is 10 years ago. They wanted a real business plan, like 50 pages. And I was like, I'm not doing that. So I didn't get the money from them. And then eventually I made a connection last year to an angel who made a small investment, which really helped push us forward. And then I kind of discovered the power of working capital loans, which I had never really wanted to do before. Previously, I mean, I'm married, I have kids. I wasn't going to put my house up as collateral for the business. Like I wasn't going to do it. And so I really was like, how could I ever get a loan? I'm not putting up anything. Well, the working capital loans, they do it based on your sales through your merchant account. So it's really easy. Really, get money in 2 minutes. The rates vary. I happen to have a really good rate on one right now through PayPal, but that's really sort of saved my butt. It's being able to have that because I love my investor, but I don't necessarily want to be giving up more equity for working capital.
In the working capital with every order as you grow, you require more. So even if you're reinvesting, you're gonna have to reinvest more each time. So the money has to come from somewhere.
Yeah, and cash flow is just a serious concern. There's a certain number of sales I need to make each day to sort of stay afloat. And there's been plenty of times where it's like, how am I going to stay in business? But it always manages to work out in the end. And the last 4 or 5 months have been really, really steady and increasing, where it's like, okay, I think we're doing something right after all these years.
What do you attribute that to? To see that kind of, growth curve all of a sudden.
Some of it is just having the right amount of inventory at the right time and being able to restock and replenish and having the right product. Sometimes I've designed stuff that I personally liked, but it just didn't resonate with the customer. I found styles or new colors that the customers really wanted and kept reordering and reordering and reordering. So, that was definitely a big part of it, but also having that investment sort of gave me a cushion in order to buy more product and try out things that I wouldn't necessarily been able to do. And same thing, with the factories, you have to pay them. We generally pay them a 30% deposit when we give them the PO. And that's when they go buy the materials. They start cutting the materials, doing all the sizes, and then 70% generally right before it ships from China. Well, I can usually do the 30%, but that 70% can be a tough nut to crack. It's 20 grand.
And there's probably still a month in between, you paying that 20,000 to when you actually get the product. So that money needs to come from somewhere each month or each shipment.
Yeah, and that part now is kind of solved. Obviously, taking on debt introduces you to other things, but the way that we're doing it, I think, smartly because it's all based on sales. There's no personal guarantee. There's nothing. It's just but the money is being used to buy a product, and that product is selling. So it's kind of simple that way.
Yeah, I feel like that's one of those things when you first get into a business like this, you don't realize there's going to be this big, like you think money comes out, but you don't realize as you grow, it actually requires more. Every order, it gets more and more and more. And, that initial funding is, whatever you bootstrapped into it, fine. But then next order, you're actually gonna need more than that. And it just goes like that forever. So having that kind of cushion is probably a key to be able to ride out the ups and downs of put in a big order, have to spend tens of thousands, and then just wait for it to arrive, and then you have to sell them, get paid, and then it starts slowly coming back in. And being able to then plan like a trajectory and say, okay, I know in the next week we're gonna have to order again, or the next, if it's 4 months out, you have to you have to know you have to see far into the future because 4 months, it's much longer. It's when you're predicting the future inventory, it's much longer than it sounds.
The inventory planning is very, very challenging. It might even be harder for a designer because I think the designer is going to tend to love everything that they create. And sometimes it's hard to separate. Well, I love that shoe, but nobody bought it. And then it's like, oh, maybe I suck. And then, it's a slippery slope down. I mean, I don't know too many entrepreneurs that don't suffer from depression and mania. Oh my God, I'm gonna be rich, and then the next day it's like, oh, I'm fucking bankrupt.
Yeah, it's one of those things when you do have the one that sells out and everyone's excited for it, and you have to keep replenishing orders. You feel like you're like a rock star, and then there's probably days where you thought something was gonna be great and it wasn't.
Yeah, but the key to that really is not looking at sales day to day or even week to week. You really have to expand out to a month or a quarter, or a year, which I can't do. But in order to look at the bigger trends and the bigger picture, yeah, you know what? Maybe I was supposed to hit a certain number this day, but in 9 days, I'm going to do triple the business I expected, which is going to cover me for the bad day last week. And you would really only see that by looking at it from a further distance away than every day.
Yeah, it also helps too once you've been into it. Once you start talking years, you realize there are actually like seasonal trends, things like that. Like I know here, there's months where we know sales are going to dip. They do every year, and there's other months we know they spike. They do every year. And you wouldn't think, I'm in software, and you wouldn't think that's actually the seasonality in software, but there is. And I imagine, any sort of footwear is even more seasonal. So, and you probably get used to seeing those.
It's somewhat, but in gym footwear and being direct to consumer and not being in a store, I feel like it's actually not as seasonal as it would have been had I been either an actual store or a brand that was more general. They used to say, oh, white shoes, don't sell after Labor Day. That's not really the case anymore. But for my customer, they don't like wearing white shoes because they get scuffed at the gym. So it's not really white shoes don't work because it's January. It's because it's cold here in Boston in January, but in Florida or West Coast, it's not seasonal. They're on different seasons basically, weather-wise. So that doesn't really take into account. But it's what does my customer want? They don't want to wear white shoes that are going to get scuffed on a rubber floor in the gym. So a lot of our shoes now have black soles or are black uppers. And the last year or so, triple black or murdered out, where the whole shoe is black, has been huge for us. And so we're taking the triple black theme and extending it into other styles. So now basically every style we make, there's a triple black color, and that's the number one color for each one.
What are the kind of tips, these kind of, I like the emotional ups and downs, because I know it's something I've talked to folks, it affects everyone. What kind of, other than kind of seeing the past, the history, any other kind of tips you've found to deal with that?
To deal with the emotional ups and downs.
Yeah, on you might come out with a hit one, 1 month and could be a flop the next month. And, how do you tell yourself we're just going through this and, next month will be different and just kind of ride that out each time it happens?
Well, I think part of it is staying busy. Um, there is always work to be done on the website or in the office or planning something. So instead of sort of dwelling on, oh man, that shoe didn't sell, I should probably, you know what? I should probably think about segmenting my email list to figure out which of my customers may want that shoe depending on a certain circumstance. If I offered them free shipping, if I gave them $20 off, if they bought 10 pairs of shoes, maybe they'd want this one at a special price. You have to think of, you got to sort of take everything in your arsenal and figure out how you're going to use it to solve the problem. So if the problem for me is this shoe's not selling, how can I make it sell?
So focus on working the problem instead of the actual problem itself. And that's kind of been,
Yeah, I mean, the problem is it's just sort of your perception. You got to change the perception and you can change the outcome. Um, I mean, I hate segmenting that email list. I just hate it. I hate having to come up with new content for each segment. And sometimes I'm like, screw it, I'm going to send it to everybody. But if you really dive into that segmentation, you will find new channels and new customers to sell new product to or old product to.
what kind of things do you segment the list based off of? Just kind of past purchases, or you can kind of tell, you know, this guy's a power lifter and this other one's a bodybuilder, or that sort of thing.
I mean, we collect their shoe size. We know where in the world they're located in. We know what style of shoe they've purchased. We know how many shoes they've purchased. We know in what frequency did they purchase those shoes in a set amount of time. We know the value of all their orders. Um, we know if they haven't shopped from us in a certain amount of time. We know if they haven't opened an email from us in a certain amount of time. I mean, there's just so many things you could look at. We know if someone's added something to cart and not checked out. We know if somebody looked at something but didn't add it to the cart. So we can do different cart and browse abandonment promotions to address people's specific actions.
So now are you finding that kind of email list using that for a lot of repeat buyers, or are you trying to go mostly new, or what do you kind of focus your time on? Growing
Well,
the.
for the emails, obviously we have to have collected their email, which they may not be a customer. They may have just signed up for an email somewhere. Um, but chances are, if we have their email, they're probably a customer. Um, so as far as the emails go, that's really to educate people who are either customers already or at least have shown an interest by signing up. But we do a lot of Facebook ads, Facebook retargeting, Google product listing ads. You have to try to go where the people are. Obviously, we're really big on Instagram because that's where the whole fitness industry is. I go to expos and bodybuilding shows and set up tables and have booths because you need to expand the awareness of the brand to people who don't already know about you. So if you have their email, they already know about you. So the question is, yes, you have to nurture those people to make a conversion, but you also got to find new people because there is, I have customers that buy literally every single pair that I make, but that may not be enough to keep things moving to keep the needle moving forward. You always need to add new customers to the mix and nurture the older customers too.
Yeah, there's kind of, even in that, it's funny, even in e-commerce, there's a concept of like churn of like repeat customers. So you're going to have repeats, and some percentage of them will, like you said, buy every pair, but some will churn out and maybe they'll stop lifting or get an injury where they're not bodybuilding anymore, whatever it happens to be. So there's always, every month, and it's hard to kind of calculate, but there is a churn of, I did have these repeat customers, but they're going to, something will happen, they'll fall off the map. So you do need to keep putting in that top of the funnel, kind of new folks finding out about the brand.
We call it feeding the beast.
Feeding the beast. Any kind of tricks to feed the beast on, is it mostly ads or expos or any kind of other?
Ads, definitely word of mouth. Um,
And when you say ads, are we talking Facebook, Instagram? But you said product
Primarily
listing ads.
Facebook, some Instagram,
Yep.
Google. We're doing Google PLAs now. We haven't been doing AdWords for a while.
I didn't know PLAs. So you're selling like a unique product, right? Like nobody sells it except for you, right? Where do PLAs? How do they work in that sort of case? Because I know if I search for like a Apple iPhone, it'll show Best Buy, Target, like 10 retailers. But how are people searching to find an actual unique product? And how does PLAs kind of work in that?
Well, a lot of times people, our keyword list. So, we kind of aggressively go after those short and long tail keywords to try to drive that business, and then being able to have the ads at the top of the page as people are searching. And obviously it's a visual product. Having a photo at the top, people just really respond to that, and PLAs are relatively cheap too.
Yep. Yeah, it's one of those things that's been around forever, and I feel like people, even like the new world of Facebook and Instagram, they still forget. And product listing ads, just so people know, it's when you search in Google, and Google realizes, hey, you're actually trying to, you're not like looking up how to make a shoe. You actually want to buy a shoe, and they'll show you whatever you search for, high top, black shoes, and they'll show you the images right at the top, and you can click and go right to your store, right? Is that kind of?
Yeah, that's correct.
And they've been around, product listing ads have been around, I don't even know how long now, like 10 plus years. And it feels like everyone like stopped talking about them. But every time I talk to folks that are doing it, they're always like, no, we still use it, and they do pretty well. So it's always this, but it's not this like hot topic anymore. It's all, social, that sort of thing. So, but it's amazing. PLAs still work as well as they do.
Yeah. And we also rely on product placement as well as affiliates. We have a pretty robust affiliate program, especially in fitness. People buy something, they post a picture of it. Hey, use my code. Everybody does that.
And is this affiliates that are promoting themselves through like Instagram and Facebook, or how do they actually promote?
They can sign up and register themselves right on the website. We use an app called Refersion, which handles the affiliates. It allows them to create a profile that has a unique URL. They can create their own discount code. They can mention the code somewhere. They can use the URL in Facebook or on their website. For some of the reps that I know, I have business cards. I have business cards with a blank back, and I'll use my Dymo printer and run off 20 or 30 cards with their discount code printed on the back, and include that in the shoebox when I send it to them. Which, wow, this company made me business cards with my code on it. It's nothing. I mean, it literally takes 30 seconds to do, but people are like, wow, that's pretty cool.
And these are what sort of reps are these folks that?
Just affiliates. I mean, some are professional affiliates that do a pretty good amount of business for us, and others are just customers or just fans who, I get everybody in my gym to wear these shoes. No, it's not easy, but please go ahead and try. We'll give you a discount. You give your fan or your friend a discount code. We'll pay you if they make the sale. It's pretty basic, but that's about a third of our revenue each month is through affiliates. It's a big part, and it hadn't always been. It had been a very small part up until a few months ago. I'm not sure what happened, but we went about a tenfold increase in revenue from affiliates. So that's a really big part. And then, I do send pairs to certain athletes and influencers in the hopes that they'll wear the shoes and talk about them and take photos. Some were fantastic. And I've had some that I've been working with for years where I just keep sending them shoes every now and again, and they post about it. And I have others that maybe they talk a lot of shit. Oh yeah, I could do this for you. I got this following. I'm going to be in this competition. All right, fine. We'll send you a pair. Let's see what you do with it. And then they do one post. that's it. So I just lost $150 on a pair of shoes for one post. But I have other people that really love the brand and really kind of take care of us. And I keep working with them and I keep sending them shoes. It's not a formal, a lot. You'll see a lot of people in the fitness industry on Instagram who are athletes, showing, oh, look, here's my contract with so-and-so supplement company. I'm signing it now for, the next year. I don't believe in any of that shit. I'll send you shoes. You get people to buy them. We'll pay you. You keep doing it. We'll send you more product. We'll do more for you. You don't do anything. We're not sending you shit.
Yep. So there's no long-term contracts. You're not
sending
a lawyer.
Yep. You do right by me and I will do right by you. And that's how it is. And that's just the kind of person I am. And that's the kind of people I want to do business with. I weed out the people who are, trust me, do you know how many people a day message me on Instagram or email me, say, oh, I really like your shoes. Would you send me a pair or do you sponsor? I'm going to be doing my first competition in a week. And then maybe if you're lucky, they actually put their Instagram profile in the email. Chances are they don't. And then it's like, you're asking about being a sponsored athlete and you don't even include your social media profiles in your email. And then you go, look, oh, I have 646 followers. I'm not saying anyone needs to have 50,000 or 100,000 followers, but with a few hundred followers, you can't do anything. You're just not going to move the needle.
What's the minimum you actually look for when you say, like, what would be entry level till you get a shot?
Depending on who it is, and a lot of it is just, well, I'll say 5,000, but that's really still on the low end. I have a couple people that have smaller followings like that, but it's more they've reached out and either they're customers already, which I really lend a lot of weight. I put a lot of weight on that. I don't like it when people out of the blue, oh, send me a pair of shoes. Well, have you ever worn them before? Have you ever seen them? No, I'm sure they're great. Sorry. Unless you got 1 million followers, I'm not doing that. Because that's people looking for a freebie. I have people who reach out over and over again or are always tagging us on their own photo. Just people who are engaging with me and with the brand and with other people, and where I build up relationship with them to some degree. If they don't have the biggest following, but I see that they've got some heart and they're going to make an effort, we'll give it a shot. And some of those people have worked out way better than people that have 1 million followers. It's just, it's the person. You got to find the right people. You got to find the right person to marry, and you got to find the right person to deal with in your business. Whether it's a partner, a customer, an influencer, an athlete, you got to find the right people and you got to be the right person too, which sounds so cheesy and, whatever, but it's kind of true.
Yeah, definitely. And that's one of those things I bet it takes a lot of time to build up, where you're, day one, you're finding, the first 5 people and maybe 4 don't work out. And each month you're finding a handful more and, half of them don't work out. And you keep kind of building from that, foundation from there. And, maybe it takes 18 years, but you get there, or 12 years. Very cool. Yeah, I think that's super helpful, actually. So I think that's a good place to wrap it up. I think a lot of people will get a lot out of that one. So thank you for that.
Sure.
If people want to kind of find out more about you, I have Instagram, Facebook. Where else can people find you, or if they want to know more?
Heydayfootwear.com, Heyday. Heyday Footwear on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Google+, Pinterest, Instagram TV. I don't know if there's any other platforms I've missed, but it's Heyday Footwear everywhere.
Awesome. We will definitely put links to that all in the show notes. So thank you very much for coming on today.
Oh, my pleasure, Charles. Great talking with you.